Today's story is a revenge story about OP taking a stance and getting his life back together after his wife forgot their 10-year anniversary and cheated on him. Now, OP is living his best life and his wife's life as a wreck. Let's get into today's story to find out what happened. I'll call her my wife just to reflect our status at the time. We had been together for 10 years and were about 15 days from celebrating 2 years of marriage. No kids. The house's lease was in her name, and we were in a totally dead bedroom for 9 months after about 3 months of declining sexual activity. When it happened, it was the stereotypical starfish duty sacks. In those 9 months, she also denied me any form of affection, hugs, rubs, touches, kisses, whatever you could think of, she denied. She claimed it was her way of making me work on writing my PhD thesis. I needed an incentive to write it. I had switched careers after finishing the research part and was no longer motivated to finish it, so I fell for that abuse disguised as a good thing. I tried to push through, and every free moment I got, I spent in front of my computer trying to finish the thesis while she spent her time watching TV, scrolling through social media, or texting and calling her friends. We practically had no time together as a couple anymore. After about 3 months of this, I buckled and couldn't handle the pressure of being stuck in the thesis and the lack of affection and rejection whenever I tried to get a simple hug. I was begging for affection and was always being rejected. That is soul-crushing, and my mind started to wander to suicidal thoughts every time I was alone and not working on my day job. I ended up thinking of ways to end my life, evaluating the pros and cons of every way I could think of until eventually, I decided on one method. Then I started to think about what messages I would leave behind and to whom. When I decided what message I would leave for my sister, I had a moment of clarity and realized what I was doing. I had the strength to stop it by removing what I thought was causing my suffering. I decided not to continue trying to write the thesis. And a few weeks later, I stopped begging for affection. It worked. The suicidal thought stopped. However, we were now roommates, not husband and wife anymore. She continued to spend her time on the phone, texting or calling someone. Even when we were doing something together, she would interrupt it to help a coworker with random stuff. Basically, me and our relationship were at the bottom of her priority. She started to make a habit of answering phone calls and going to the bathroom at a time where in the previous 9 years she would already be asleep. She started to go meet her female friends and coworkers on the weekends to catch up and gossip, which would be boring for me, and I wouldn't enjoy it, so she went alone. She arranged dinners followed by extensive talks in the parking lot. That was her reason for arriving in the first hours of the morning. She did this with her coworkers whom I didn't know and went without me because I wouldn't fit in or because I was visiting my parents in my hometown. Whenever I complained about those odd behaviors, she always dismissed my concerns and made me think I was crazy. Whenever she needed me, she could be kind, but as soon as she didn't need me anymore, she would go back to mistreating me. The only 2 weeks in those 9 months where she was sweet and fooled me into thinking we were back to normal was when she asked me to work on a chapter of her PhD thesis. It had to do with programming, and she knew nothing about it. As anyone remotely well-balanced can see, I was being used and abused left and right, but I couldn't see it at the time. Even if you pointed out everything wrong about our relationship, I wouldn't recognize it. And if you dare to insinuate she could be cheating on me, I would be really mad at you. I started to open my eyes 1 year ago. Today, we were on vacation on a beautiful island in the Mediterranean, and I was convinced we were celebrating our 10th anniversary together. Yes. We were in a rough spot. To be fair, our relationship was already dead, but I couldn't see it at the time. But she always made a point to celebrate all the dates, and gift exchange was really important to her. By the way, I'm not that into exchanging gifts and have disappointed her in that department before. For our 10th anniversary, I had bought her something special and never thought she would let it go despite our recent struggles. Well, the day came, and I suggested going to dinner at a restaurant instead of eating in our as we had been doing all the previous days. She started berating me, saying it was a dumb thing, and why would we spend money when we could eat perfectly well at our apartment. I told her that the day was a special day, but I didn't tell her it was our 10th anniversary. Apparently, She forgot why that day was special. At the end of the day, I hid her present below her pillow, hoping that when she found it, she would remember what was so special about that day. Well, she found it, but didn't understand why I gave it to her. It was not usual for me to give her gifts out of the blue. Then I realized she had forgotten all about it. It might seem trivial taking into account all the other stuff, but when she forgot about it, I was hurt and broken even more so than I already was until then. But if you asked me at the time, I wouldn't have thought I was broken. We might have had a few little problems. Yes. But everyone has them. Right? Dummy talking. On that day, I decided to look for help, and I started individual counseling without her knowing, to try and solve what I thought was our main problem, our dead bedroom. I was so wrong back then. Looking back, the dead bedroom was the least of our problems, but what's important is that I made that decision, and I started individual counseling as soon as we got back from our vacation. In individual counseling, I slowly started to realize all the abusive things I had been put through. But I still wanted to fix things and make us work and go back to being happy like before. The idea of her cheating on me crossed my mind, but I quickly discarded it. There's no way she would do that. We are only in a rough spot. There's a million innocent reasons for her behavior. It took me about 3 months of weekly individual counseling and more episodes of complete disrespect and even boldness to start to consider cheating as an explanation for her abusive behavior. Do you want some examples? I know you do. She kept her phone to herself, always in her hand or side, with the front facing down, and she took it wherever she went, even in the bathroom. She didn't do any of those things before. Whenever the activity we were doing together, she would stop to answer her coworker and help him during a more stressful and busy period. Today, he needs my help. Tomorrow, I might need his help. That was her explanation. On my birthday, we went partying at a club with a few of my old friends. She was constantly texting on her phone and even answered a call at around 3 in the morning, claiming it was her female friend, Emily. But eventually, early in the call, I figured out that she had lied and that she was not talking to Emily. Who the hell calls anyone at 3 in the morning, especially a married person? Why would you take that call? Why would you lie about who it was? Why are you talking on the phone for about an hour with this mysterious person at 3 in the morning while we were celebrating my birthday with our friends, whom we don't get to hang out with much because life happens? I think you all guessed who it was, and you are right, but I didn't know at the time and didn't even suspect. I just thought it was one more disrespectful thing. On another occasion, we were talking about going to the cinema that Friday night because it was the last opportunity to watch a movie we wanted to see. On that day, she said she was tired and didn't feel like going out. She wanted to stay home and chill on the sofa. I understood that, and it was okay for me, so I also stayed at home after dinner. She got a call from her male friend from work and agreed to go out and have coffee and gossip about some impending changes in their departments. Not even an hour had passed since she had said she was too tired to go out. I told her I wouldn't stay home while she went off after trashing our plans, and I would go to the cinema and watch a movie anyway. I bet that's not the reaction you were expecting, but believe me, I could have totally stayed at home and not had any fun. That was how I had some of the fun I had planned to have. Who are you? Me from the past. Of course, she immediately changed clothes and got into a beautiful summer dress, and then she went with him. Yes, he picked her up near our building. No, I didn't get to see him. Yes. I was dumb. I was pissed at the disrespect, but then again, cheating was at the bottom of the list of reasons I could think of. I returned home from the movie and she wasn't there. I called. No answer. I called again. Still no answer. I sent her a text. She replied saying, "This is no time for a girl to be out. I'll be home in half an hour." I decided to wait by the window to try and get a glimpse of the car and guy she returned with. She came back about 2.5 hours later. I did get to see the car, and I even heard some things she said to him while outside the car, and what I heard immediately reminded me of the way we would say goodbye to each other when we were starting to date. At that point, cheating started to climb positions on the list of reasons for her behavior, yet it was still far from the top. Yes. I was still dumb and blind. On another occasion, I found her laundry, the panties she wore the day and night she went out for coffee or dinner or a company party. It had a lot of what I thought was vaginal fluid, and I mean a lot, which was not normal. No one was having that much fun at work or when hanging out with friends. That's when it became clear she was cheating on me. I felt like my heart was pulled out of my chest. I had found the proverbial gun with the bullets, but still in my mind, it wasn't a smoking gun. There was still a 1% chance that it wasn't real. She could have been masturbating, right? No need for a third party to intervene, so I decided to try and peek at her phone. It was really hard because in my mind, that was an awful thing. If you reached that point, you were done. There would be no trust. There would be nothing left. I even got the chance, but backed down at the last minute. I had a talk with a friend who told me he too was cheated on and that the behavior of my wife was similar to his cheating girlfriend that settled it. I finally got the opportunity to peek at her phone, and there it was, in all of its glory, thousands of text exchange between her and this coworker who was having a difficult time because his mother had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, another low blow. My grandmother suffered from deep Alzheimer's disease for about 10 years until she passed away, so she knew that was a soft spot for me. It was also full of sexual talk, pictures, and underwear from them, both. Everything. They had been at it for at least a year until I found out. 1 damn year. The same time as our dead bedroom and the same duration of her torturing me by denying affection. She not only chose to cheat on me, but also to be loyal and faithful to him as if being with her husband was wrong and a betrayal of the other guy. Well, I was glad she did it. At least I didn't have to battle with the thoughts of having had sex or even touching her before or after he had sex with her. As soon as I found this undeniable evidence, I was crushed. But at that point, I was already expecting it and didn't crumble immediately. I decided I would leave her as soon as possible. My situation was the best one could be, and when in that situation, no kids, no house owned, and no lease in my name, I could just pack my things and leave as soon as I found a place for myself. I also decided I would not let her know what I had found out and more importantly, how I found out. So I kept my composure and pretended like nothing happened. I even helped her with her dress as she was preparing to go to a big party event at her company, and I already knew that was not the main event for that night. He would be there as well, so naturally, they would do what adults do. About an hour later, she left, and I finally could grief cry, yell, get mad, and let all my emotions out. I called my friend, read more of their texts, created this Reddit account, and spent about 4 hours writing my story and posted it on Dead Bedrooms, which I had been following for the previous 6 months when I thought our problem was just a dead bedroom. I want to thank all the people supported me at that time and reached out with advice and more importantly pointed me to useful resources such as this community, which I have been following since. Of course, I couldn't sleep, and I stayed up until she arrived home at around 7 in the morning. Of course, she told me her group of friends was the last to leave the party and that it was great. He and I know what was really great. In one of her texts to him later that day, she said to him, "The after party left my thigh bruised because of the hand brake. Almost all cars in my country have hand brakes between the drivers and passenger seats, so it's clear what kind of after party it was. That happened on the weekend. During the week, I kept playing dumb while I was meeting with lawyers, found a place to live and arranged for my mail to be forwarded to a new address. All the while, she stayed at work late." Another peek at her messages showed she wasn't working, but instead waiting for the other guy for another round of sacks. In the previous 2 weeks, they had sacked more times than we had in the previous 18 months of our marriage. Way to go, wife. By Friday, I had everything ready to move as soon as she went to her job. My family came by and helped pack all of my things and transported them to my new place. At the end of the day, I sent her a message saying, "You know what you have been doing." I left the house, and I'm filing for divorce, and immediately blocked her. I called her mother to tell her about the divorce. I didn't explain why, just said her daughter knew what she had been doing and should explain. My wife kept trying to call me without success. She called my mother, but she never answered. In the previous 10 years, She had never called my mother, she even called my friends, but they were already in the loop and never answered her either. She then proceeded to text me via the same app she was using with her affair partner and even accused me of being brainwashed by a former coworker of mine and leaving to go living with her. Ridiculous accusation and a classic example of projection. I blocked her. I only got to talk with her 2 more times. The next Wednesday, I called her to tell her the lawyer had sent a letter with all the information pertaining to the divorce. She tried to play the lost wife card who didn't understand what was happening and why I was doing this. She kept crying, saying she had always fought for us and that I never had, and that she had been thinking that we should go to marriage counseling for some time. I think most of us are familiar with all of this. The thing is, I almost fell for it. After that call, I started to doubt what I knew was undeniably true. Yet, my broken and beaten heart started to doubt and wanted to believe in all her crap. Luckily, I had copies of their messages and read some of them to get real. Yes. It was pain shopping, but I needed that to keep myself focused and to not back down. They basically got to know every parking lot suitable for car sacks around our house. His house and their work. They most likely did it in their work office building, and the most hurtful revelation was that they regularly did it in our house, in our bed, living room, kitchen, everywhere. The last time I spoke with her was about a month later when we signed the divorce. At that time, she tried to project this cold, distant and superior persona. At the end, I told her that I knew everything she had done with the affair partner. Her response was something like this: "What I did was only to get a reaction from you." I think she didn't fully understand what I knew. Perhaps she even thought I was just pissed at all the attention she gave to the other guy. The next weekend, I met with her parents and told them most of what she had put me through and about the affair, although without revealing the messages. Of course, they had a hard time believing their daughter could do such horrible things. Doing so was telling her, "This is how I got you. Next time, be more careful and hide your secret life better." But I didn't show them the evidence. That was the last time I had contact with anyone in her family. How did I deal with all the trauma? I kept going to individual counseling. I still am today. I relied on my friends and family. I never hit her cheating. Doing so would be collaborating. I let my emotions out every time I felt like crying. I cried. It came in waves. One moment, I was fine. The other, I felt the brutal shock of everything once again. Just let it all out. It'll pass and get better. I haven't had one such episode for months, but I know I might have one any time, and it's okay. I started doing things I felt like doing. Mostly going to concerts and watching plays at theaters. Damn COVID-19, going by myself, without other people. It felt great not to miss out on something you think you might like just because you don't want to go alone and your friends don't feel like going. Go to events even if you don't feel like going. It's an opportunity to meet new people and get yourself out of your bubble. Yes, it won't cure you, but the boost you get from just talking to new people, even if just for a few minutes, is wonderful. Make an effort to interact more with other people. I'm an introvert, so this is a hard and important thing for me to do. The only way to get better at talking and being with and around other people is, well, by doing it. Has it been easy? Hell, no. It's a struggle. But with time, it gets better. I confess I was doing much better before COVID-19 hit my country and shut everything down. In the past 3 months, I felt like going backwards in my recovery because all the things I did to cope with the situation were not available. Concerts and plays were canceled. Parties and events were canceled, friends and gatherings were forbidden. I moved to my parents' house to be with them when we were ordered to stay at home. Despite being in a really privileged position, sometimes I felt trapped and suffocated without being able to take a walk in a beautiful garden and take a break from the people in my house. We love each other, but we all need our own space. As a consequence, I found myself going back to all the things she did more often, and it has been hard. Thank you all for reading this far. You deserve a medal. I also want to thank everyone who reached out to me in my previous post and comments. Knowing an internet stranger cares might seem unimportant, but it really can be the difference between being stuck in a miserable mindset and turning yourself around and coming with renewed strength. I hope my story can help someone. I know it's hard, but it's possible to break all the emotional abuse. You are worth it. On your own, you don't need anyone else to tell you that you're worth it. Take back your power and live for yourself. You can do it. Wow. Oh, P, what a touching story. I'm so glad to hear that you left her and are doing better than you've ever been before. If I were you, I would also tell your in-laws your side of the story in case your wife tries to hide what actually happened, and positive that she would never tell them about how she treated you. It seems the only consequence that your ex had to face was the absence of you in her life. That in itself is a big consequence, but she never felt the shame of having her family know that she destroyed her marriage with an affair. Telling her family will allow that to happen. Best of luck to you, Op keeps striving. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's story. Take